Relax. You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, a little bit after 9 p.m. Where else would you rather be, Steelers fans? And with me, as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Big Bro Scho, how does it go this evening?
It's a great day to be alive. So, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know about you, I find myself saying, oh, you know what? If something's going to happen with the Steelers, I'm not looking for it. I'm not waiting. Just eventually something's going to just come across and everything. I know we have some Steelers news, or maybe I should say non-Steelers news. And we're obviously the first podcast since this has happened, is that it has been reported that quarterback Russell Wilson is signing with the New York Giants. He's got a deal that's, I think it's $10.5 million guaranteed. He can earn up to 21, things of that nature. I got to ask, I'm not just, we're just going to dive right into it. How you feel about that?
I don't care. I mean, no, that's not the right phrase. Not that I don't care, but just not that big a deal. There you go. Let's put it that way. Not that surprised. It wasn't shocking. It was the fact he signed with the Giants wasn't shocking. The fact the numbers of the contract, nothing in there is shocking. Just nothing shocking.
Yeah.
And I know because I've already seen people say, "Hey, what's this do there in Rodgers?" Blah 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 blah. Honestly, in some ways, this gives the Steelers a little better. I don't want. What am I looking for? I'm not wanting to say leverage. That gives the Steelers a little more. I don't know.
Clarity. Clarity.
Well, one less team out there bidding on Aaron Rodgers, and so honestly, the Steelers can basically get to the point where they're just like, "Hey, look, here's the deal. Take it, leave it. We don't care, whatever." Love it.
Yeah, I think what this does is I think it goes to show that if Aaron Rodgers is playing in 2025, it's going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think teams know this. I think that's kind of where it's understood to be. The only question now is it the Steelers or is it retirement? So he's doing what he's doing. Go ahead.
And I'm not losing sleep over either direction.
Yes,
that's the cool part for me. It's like,
I don't know how much it's going to move the needle for me either way. Whenever it finally comes out. What's going to move the needle for me more than anything is money. And obviously, if he retires, then it doesn't cost the Steelers a thing. And if he does decide to play with the Steelers, the reports on whatever the contract is really what's going to drive the needle for me more than anything. I will tell you this, when the season ended, I was adamant that, you know what, the Steelers can't just run it back with Russ again next year the way it ended. I kind of, how do I say it? As free agency and everything else went on, I kind of softened to the idea of, you know what, it wouldn't be terrible if that's what they did again. I don't really want it, but if that's where they ultimately have to go, seeing how everything's going down, I could see why their hand was forced in that regard, especially if he ended up being cheaper than Justin Fields. But ultimately, I would rather have, something. How many times have we said it doesn't seem that the starting quarterback for the Steelers in 2027 is not on their roster and is not going to be on their roster unless they do make a move in the draft this year, is not going to be on their roster in 2025. That's just the way that I see it. That's the way that I feel it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more with the topic of our show, believe it or not, because the topic of our show is, should the Steelers have a better defense in 2025? And because it's going to come back to that. But to me, that I keep saying I wrote the article. The one thing that the Steelers haven't screwed up with the quarterback position is they haven't overpaid the wrong guy. Now, could they overpay the wrong guy if it's Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely, they could. I'd feel better if it's not being overpaid. Then whether he's the right guy or wrong guy, then it doesn't really matter to me.
What's your overpay number, Dave?
I don't know. Well, see, because here's the thing. If it's a 2-year deal, I'm actually not worried about the Steelers reducing that first year, unless nothing in year 2 is guaranteed. If he's got, I don't know, I'm going to throw something crazy out there. I mean, please don't quote this as this is what I think it would be, what it wouldn't be, whatever. I'm going to say, what if it were 2 years, $50 million? Okay. I still think that's a bit, that's way under what everyone's saying he would be, but I would even think that could be a little bit of an overpay. But let's just say that, 2 years, $50 million, you're talking $25 million a season. There's probably people that are like, you're crazy. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is paying for that. My thing is, I don't know that Aaron Rodgers would be that much better than anything else they would have got at that price. That's why I don't want them paying that. I'm throwing that number out there just to try to give you the idea of what I was talking about.
Yep.
So the debate whether that number was too high, too low, just right, whatever. My point is, if it's that much and you're going to do basically $25 million each year, okay, how much of that, would it be a $25 million base salary next year? How much of it, all of it guaranteed? I wouldn't be shocked if it was $50 million. If it ended up being $30 million this year between the signing bonus and base salary, the $20 million base next year. As long as it's not guaranteed, then it's a whole different story. I have a feeling it's going to need to all be guaranteed. That might be one of the things going on. That's why the Steelers want to make sure that he's going to be around for the length of the contract. He's not just going to turn around and retire next year. If they're going to sign him to a 2-year deal, they want him to commit to 2 years, which is still part of everything that's going on. Which, remember, that could be what's holding stuff up a little bit. Because if Aaron Rodgers is having to decide that, and what the Steelers are asking for 2 years, then he's basically making a decision for both years. So, but my point is, I don't want to see the Steelers, come in and keep that number for this year down as low as possible. Keep it down to, I don't know, let's say they gave a $5 million base contract, $25 million signing bonus. Then you're talking $17.5 million this year. I don't need them to have it massively lower because of the way the cap is. I don't want a huge dead hit next year if Aaron Rodgers isn't with the Steelers next year. So that's more what I'm looking at when it comes to the money. At this point, with what the Steelers have, I'm saying I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you this. I'm surprised. Because I was at an event last night. It was a Fellowship of Christian Athletes event for our area. It was a thing, that I went to, and I had so many people ask me about the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. Everyone wants to know about Aaron Rodgers. I'm just like, I'm so tired of having to think about the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. I'm just like, I'm surprised at how much of Steelers Nation seems like they would prefer to run it with Rudolph. I thought that would be, just don't do that, from so many people and so many in the what's that called, in the media. So hold on, Rich. I will tell you, the reason I'm still talking is because your mic's not working.
I know. I had to mute because the boys were coming in the house. So all right. So here's the thing though, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my worry when it comes to Steeler fans.
Okay.
They say they want that now.
Yeah.
Run it with
want
Rudolph.
that come January.
No. Not January. What are you talking about? I'm talking about by the second week of August.
That's true. Or I would say October, even. Yeah.
I'm thinking, halfway through training camp, then how many people jump the other way? And it would happen.
Yeah.
Just like, but that's actually no different. That there are folks that are out there right now that might be saying, you know what, just go ahead, just get Rodgers, let him be the starter, and they could totally change their minds by
Yeah.
the second week of August.
Yes.
Steeler fans do like to change their minds.
Yeah, they do. And you know what?
And it's
not
okay.
that that's bad. It's not
No.
that that's bad. I mean, how many times? This is the classic Steeler. I don't know as much as that they also change their minds. I think sometimes they suffer from amnesia, that you don't remember how much you felt something at one point versus another. Because we heard about it all summer and all through training camp, how brutal the Steelers' schedule was to finish the year, and that they better win a bunch of games early if they're going to make the playoffs, because they might not win anything at the end of the season. And then that's exactly what fans predicted, and they were furious about it. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been, but I mean, it was exactly what most fans predicted.
Yes.
So, and of course, you know, those games, they didn't finish competitively outside of the Bengals game. The other three in the regular season were either within 7 points or tied with 5 minutes left in the third period and fell apart. So it's not that they were out of it the whole game. They were out of it the start. They fought back and then fell out of it again. All three games, those in a row that happened. I broke that down a bunch. Then that Bengals game, they were right there. And then the playoffs just went poo-poo. So I get the frustration, but I mean, Steelers fans, remember this. I know you're frustrated on it, but so many of you were right. You were right. That end of the season stretch was brutal. And they just, it was so bad they couldn't even really compete. So, which did show you a little bit more what kind of team it was. And a lot of people are like, oh, they gave you so much false hope by winning so many games early. That's because it's what they had to do. They couldn't start slow last year. And how many times have we seen the Steelers start the season slow?
Yep.
They couldn't. They had to win those games if they were going to have a chance. And it seems, and it works out that they did. But I'll also tell you this. I know there's a whole lot of Steelers fans that how the season finished and they fell off a cliff and they weren't competitive in the playoffs and got trounced and bounced is what happened. They're looking back at it. If they could go back and if you could change the past without having to go back and relive it, they would have rather the Steelers dropped a bunch of games early, didn't make the playoffs, and rather than sitting at pick 21, be sitting somewhere around 12.
Yep.
Yeah. As long as you didn't have to relive the season. If you could just go back, change it, and then be right back to where we are now. That's what they would prefer. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that because it's another one of those, you know, trounced and bounced. I guess has anyone else said that I'm hearing that from, or is that just something that came out of my mouth? I'm trying to remember if it's something I heard before. If you have, someone tell me that you've heard trounced and bounced. As described the Steelers in the playoffs.
And say what, you know, and everybody is entitled to their feelings on whether, you know, if they went back and you could go back and change that or not, this, that, everything else. But let me just tell you from my standpoint, me personally, I much prefer to show up on Tuesday nights and take that deep breath for that sweet smell of victory.
Yeah. Enjoying the ride while it's on it. Ride the wave.
Yeah. Oh, gee, you had to do that.
What? Say ride the wave?
Yes.
Why?
Because I immediately went to a Cool Mo D song. So.
Hey, I want to bring up something here. Because Brian Brown said, you want to see the middle of the field used? Start Mason. Hey, Brian, you want to know if using the middle of the field's a good thing? Go back and check out Unpopular Opinion from Sunday morning. This was an opinion somebody sent to me on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and said, people want the Steelers to use the middle of the field more. I want the Steelers to use the middle of the field more. I want it to be a threat. But raised the point of teams that use the middle of the field aren't always the teams that have the most success. And because the team that uses it the least in the NFL is the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you didn't catch that podcast, go back and check it. Also was an article at steelcrednetwork.com. Yeah, and Mr. Woodside's exactly right. Says nothing wrong with Cool Mo D. But
how do you like me now?
Yeah, there you go. We need to get into the topic of the show, but we needed to talk about, since there was some quarterback news there, and I'm going to keep saying it. I just want to know: am I supposed to start to? I want to know if am I getting excited about Mason Rudolph or am I getting excited about somebody else? I realize that's the thing that's frustrating me now. I want to start thinking about the Steelers' season. And it's so hard to think about what I think it could be when you don't know the quarterback. It's just hard. So
it's not as hard for me. I'm okay. I'm okay not knowing for certain yet.
yeah,
Give me 7, 8 weeks, maybe. Get through the draft, and about a week after the draft happens, I'd like to be knowing a little more. Then I will start to be going into the, I don't want to call it panic mode, but I'll get very antsy over it then.
Yeah.
Okay, but right now, I'm still just I'm such a big Omar Khan guy that I'm just like, Omar's working it. He knows what he's doing. I'm trusting. And they'll get it all worked out, and they'll get it worked out in time,
Yeah.
and things will be okay. I am not getting too worked up over it yet. But as I said, that time, I for me know when that time would be that I would start being like, come on, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I'll tell you one thing as we transition from quarterback to defense. If the Steelers weren't sold on any of their quarterbacks from last year to invest in them, how much they end up getting paid, then good for them. I know the one was it Warren Sharp or whatever has been ripping on the Steelers about having no plan, no whatever. Okay, with quarterback. What I would say to that is, I'm glad that they're not sticking to a bad option. And I'll say this again. Kenny Pickett helped the Steelers out by demanding a trade. Because if not, we'd still be trying to figure out if Kenny Pickett could be the guy.
yep.
Because I kept saying, hey, you take a first-round quarterback and you miss, you're going to be stuck with him to 3 or 4 seasons just to make sure it's a miss.
And we would have just been through 3 right now.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So by him asking out, that actually helped. That took away the question. It removed the question.
Yeah. Don't
So,
say necessarily
I'm grateful
helped.
for that.
I don't know if I can say yet whether it helped or hurt, but it shifted the gears.
Yeah. If Kenny Pickett doesn't ask to be traded, the Steelers don't trade for Justin Fields. Pickett's the backup. Don't know how that would have gone with him the first 6 games. I'm not even going to look into that. But, I mean, we could play that what-if game all we want to. But if he was the guy coming, that was going to be your quarterback going into next year, I don't even know how I want to think about that. It really would have depended on those 6 games.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is that's not the Steelers' long-term answer at quarterback. And I'm just glad that they found it out sooner than later that maybe he could have been. It doesn't look like it based on everything else with how things are going otherwise. Maybe he could have been. But it didn't seem to be going that direction. Because it's really hard to see if he would have improved last year. Don't know. Hardly got to see him play. And now he's on to another team. But at least you're not holding on to something, still trying to figure it out. That's one thing that I have to say.
Speaking of shifting gears, Dave, let's shift.
Let's shift because we need to talk defense because this is here's the whole point of this tonight. Where do the Steelers really put their emphasis when it comes to everything? Not just where they spend, but is this team based on their offense or based on their defense?
The Steelers traditionally have been built around their defense.
Yes, they have. Now, they had the Killer B era where it was around the offense and the defense was so bad they still couldn't win anything. So if it's built on the defense, we're so caught up with quarterback right now because it's the most important position in professional sports. But would it be safe to say that what's going to make or break the Steelers season this year more than anything is going to be where they are on defense?
Perhaps.
I'm going to give you some numbers.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some NFL rankings of how the Steelers finished last season, ranking-wise, okay? Defensively, yardage, they were ranked 12th. Points, they were given up, they were ranked 8th. Remember, you want to be the highest for these. Against the run, they were ranked 6th. Against the pass, they were ranked 25th. That was their 4 rankings there. Okay. They were tied for first in takeaways, and they were tied for 16th, middle of the road in sacks. So they weren't the typical sacks team you get from the Steelers. They were more about getting the takeaways. But if you look at the Steelers' offense, yardage 23rd, points 16th, running the ball 11th, passing the ball 27th. Giving up sacks, they were tied for 23rd, and not turning the ball over, they were 10th. Every single one of those rankings, defense was better than offense.
Yes. Now, here's the part that we talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We bring it up a lot on this show. And this is where things were missing again at times last year. And that was that ever famous phrase we like to use is the complementary football.
Yeah.
The Steelers last year were still not as, I think the word I want to use, as efficient playing complementary football as they could be. The offense needs to come up some more. I actually think the defense overall last year did not play up to their full capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't too far below what but I think a lot of those guys would say we didn't play totally up to where we thought we should have been as a unit. If the defensive unit comes up some and the offensive unit comes up some, especially in the passing game, that passing game number was low. Okay? If that passing game number comes up some, does that maybe help in the complementary football a little bit? Maybe.
Yeah.
So I will say this, on both sides of the football, improvements need to be made. And if you can make it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be leaps and bounds on either side of the football.
Yeah.
Although just a little bit here or there defensively turns this unit into an extremely good unit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you agree with me on this one or not, Dave, but there were some, you never got full reports and things like that here and there, but that defense, there were some guys dinged up and it showed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not hurt, but just dinged up.
Yeah.
And you gotta understand when you're talking about this level of football in the NFL, I don't know, pick an all-time great defensive player that from any team that you can think of, Dave. Just,
Troy Polamalu.
Troy Polamalu.
Yeah.
Did we see Troy Polamalu go through stretches where we knew he was playing dinged up? He could play.
Yeah.
And it was better than the next guy up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the regular Troy Polamalu.
Mm-hmm.
Other guys that you could think of through the years, you could say that played at that level where they could continue to play dinged up and be a better option, but not be at their same level. Yeah, Troy Polamalu. You could say guys like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Lawrence Taylor, guys at that level. We saw it not so much this year. This year it stayed pretty good, but the year before we saw what happened with Cam Hayward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he got hurt, he did come back, and he was better than the next option, but everybody in the world could tell it wasn't Cam Hayward.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me, for our defensive unit, is can guys get through without getting dinged up long term? Everybody's going to get dinged up some, because, I mean, gee whiz, it's football. But it's those types of dings that it's like, man, this is never going to heal up. I'm going to have to just finish out the rest of the season this way. And you have a guy, you have a Troy Polamalu playing, 80 to 85% for 3/4 of the season is not a horrible thing, but man, I'd much rather have 100% Troy Polamalu out there than 85% Troy Polamalu.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
yeah. All right. Well, hey, I'm going to bring up a couple things here from the live chat.
Okay.
This is from John Edborg. He says cheapest O versus most expensive D. Not true. Most expensive D, yes. Cheapest O, they were not last year. They were 29th. They were cheaper. There was 3 teams cheaper last year. But here's the other thing that you have to remember for this. That's because they were the 3rd cheapest at quarterback.
Yep.
Because once again, they didn't overspend. So you can't really fault the Steelers for saying that. And also, you and I have talked here extensively about that. And the problem there is because the Steelers have so many guys on rookie deals and supplemented with guys on league minimum deals that made up their offense. Defense, they had a bunch of vets that they were paying. Okay, really, in order to balance it, to make their defense not as expensive, they need to draft more defenders. So that's that common myth. Then there was another one here, and it's funny, ironically, by the same person. Sorry, not one to form out. It says, D's that continuously get blown out in the first quarter of a playoff game. That stat is telling. Are you not watching the games? They gave up 7 points in the first quarter this last year. 7. Remember Ben Roethlisberger's final game against Kansas City? The Steelers held them scoreless for 5 possessions. And the only points that the Steelers had was a defensive touchdown.
Yep.
That was not the defense. Now, Buffalo last year, I didn't even look into that one. I went from the memory of the other one and then this past year. Remember, that Steelers playoff game, one of the biggest things that was dumb was the Steelers calling a timeout on 3rd down to try to get the ball back before halftime, and instead let them get a first down and march down and get a touchdown. Yeah. That there was just some things there, but they weren't blown out in the first quarter. I'm sorry, you should expect your offense to at least put 3 points on the board in the first quarter, and they didn't. They'd have been down 7-3. They weren't blown out. So, I mean, sometimes we just got to remember what actually happened and not just what narratives fans put out there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're actually going to go through the defense position group by position group to see if we feel like the Steelers are in better shape or not. So if you're with us here on live on any of our platforms, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us here on the audio, stick around. We'll be right back after this break.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
All right, Rich, it's actually time to see if we should relax and don't worry. Going to look at the Steelers defense. I'm going to start oppositely. I know we got to do one other thing, and I'm going to start furthest away from the ball and get forward. But here's the other thing. We're going to keep our eye out because tonight's 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk is to come from the live chat. So now is the time that if you have a suggestion of something that we're going to talk about during our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk, go ahead and throw that in there. Rich and I will both try to keep our eyes open for that, and then we'll try to pick a good one whenever that comes about after we look at the different position groups. I'm starting furthest away from the ball because of how I want to finish. Okay, let's start safety. What have the Steelers done? They well, you could say about Cam Sutton, but whether he was safety or corner, well, I'm going to save him for corner. They did not bring back DeMonte KZ, who is not signed anywhere else. See, Ryan Watts should be back this year. This is the 7th round rookie that got hurt and missed last year. But the big thing is that they signed Juan Thornhill, or is it Juan? Or J1? I don't know. J1. I thought it was
Jay
Juan.
Ewan.
Is it
Jay
Ewan? No, they found Thornhill. We'll say that. I don't know about you, but I think that should make the Steelers better in their 3 safety look.
I agree. I think it will.
Thornhill was really good with Kansas City. Interceptions every season. Didn't work out very well in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think we got as I like to say, I think we got an upgrade there. So anytime you can look at a position group where there's been a change of some sort and feel that you've got an upgrade, that's a good thing. And I think we got an upgrade.
Yeah. And now, honestly, I think how well the Steelers are at safety is really going to depend on the play of Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Of course.
Yeah, that's what.
However, I think this mix of 3 is a better mix potentially for Minkah.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's getting to a point where you've got to see if something works to get. And I'm not just all about the splash plays. I'm just talking about solid safety play. If other people are getting the interceptions rather than Minkah, that's all right. I don't care who gets them, as long as they are getting them. I mean, my goodness, the Steelers, they had the most takeaways in the regular season last year. So we could complain, oh well, Minkah isn't doing this. I mean, but other people are getting it done.
Yeah,
it really is going to have to be all of them working together. So I don't think Minkah was quote unquote as bad as everyone looked at, because they look at, oh, he didn't get the interceptions. Oh, we only got one. You know, that's not the only thing that determines your play.
And I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but I think it's the good analogy. Okay. Minkah is still looking for his Ryan Clark.
Yeah.
Because Troy will tell you, Troy Polamalu was who he was and could do the Troy Polamalu things because of Ryan Clark. Like you talk about 2 guys that just fit together perfectly. Yeah. They did, right? I'm not sure we've gotten close, but I'm not sure we've really found that exact nice mesh with Minkah. Do we get it this year? I don't know. We'll find out. There's the possibility.
So let's look at both what do you want first? The bad news or the good news?
Oh, I don't care.
Okay. The good news is, I think, is that the Steelers have another good safety. I think Deshaun Elliott was the best safety on the Steelers last year.
Yeah.
He had a really good season. The bad news is, whether it was safety or if you're talking about all of the secondary, which we'll get to shortly, there was issues with communication and everything. So just because Deshaun Elliott's playing well doesn't mean that him and Minkah were on the same page. Can't say I'm not a secondary guy. I'm not. So I don't want to throw any accusation out there that, oh, maybe they just didn't play the best of each other. I'm just saying that you got really good play from another safety, and yet I still heard a lot of things of talking about communication, whether it had anything to do with them or not. I'm just putting that out there. So I think the Steelers, remember, this was their weak spot last year on defense, was against the pass. So yes. I already think they're a little bit better at safety. What about corner? They lost Dante Jackson, and they did not bring back Cam Sutton, and they now have Darius Slay and Brandon Eccles.
My knee-jerk reaction to that is it's an upgrade.
Yeah, it's an upgrade.
So again, you're taking a position group of one of the rooms, and based on what I see, it is getting upgraded.
Yeah.
Now, again, you can talk about upgrades and, winning the off season and things on paper all you want. We see how that works sometimes over at the Mistake by the Lake. So, I say some of these things kind of almost tongue in cheek, but you still have to have a take on these things. And the initial reaction is that both the safety position, a slight upgrade in the safety position, and I think a bigger upgrade at corner.
Well, and because not only that, I think they're going to be better at corner just because Joey Porter Jr., another year under his belt.
Yep.
Corey Trice, get him some playing time. Beanie Bishop, is it going to be Eccles, or is Bishop going to grab that job? I think it's smart that you don't want to bank on an undrafted free agent coming in from a rookie season where they didn't play him down the stretch, but also Beanie Bishop could still be that guy.
Yes.
So therefore, you look at who you have and get better. They have James. They brought back James Pierre. It's probably as much as special teams as anything, but I mean that's depth there. So you basically look at, you have 2 out, 2 in. I like the 2 in better. I don't know much about Brandon Eccles. All I know is that Cam Sutton was really bad. It did not. It was not good last year. So I don't know if it could have got worse there. So I'm hoping the secondary overall, and this is pre-draft. I don't know that the Steelers will go with secondary in the draft, but they could. But overall, I feel that the secondary is better, and I think that was the place where there was the most room for improvement. Which some people are going to be like, "Well, hold on." Okay, and we'll get there. Because next, anything else you want to say about the secondary before we roll?
No, just you can't be upset with the free agent moves in a way because you think the rooms got better.
Yes.
Boom.
And unfortunately, the quarterback cloud kind of makes you forget about a lot of this. Now let's talk inside linebacker. This one I'm not sure about because I really liked Landon Roberts. He was their highest rated linebacker on the team. They didn't bring him back. They replaced him with somebody younger and that does special teams. I don't know that it's an upgrade, but I also don't know if the Steelers, how much Landon Roberts was going to get in the mix as well, because is Cole Holcomb going to be healthy enough and not you just don't know what you have. But if they have something anywhere close to what he was before he got hurt, that's a big deal. You get Peyton Wilson into the second year of his career. That's a big deal. And I think that's kind of where the Steelers are. There's a potential there that it could be really good with I forget Malik. What's his last name? Harrison. There it is. Playing with Patrick Queen. Hopefully Patrick Queen can have a better year with the Steelers. Here's the thing that could blow your mind. You ready? What if Cole Holcomb comes back and is ready to play? So much so, he's the green dot and Patrick Queen can just play. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
The thing is, to me, it's the biggest wild card of everything so far, is that it could be better and it could not be.
Yes. But that's all just because of the unknown for us as the fans of Holcomb. And the, what I want to say, with Harrison coming in, there's not, I don't know that there's as much book on him, if that makes sense. In terms of knowing exactly 100% more what he's not Queen. We had a decent idea what we were getting in Patrick Queen. I'm not sure that the book's fully written or that largely written. yet on Harrison, so there's still some there. You put that and Holcomb together, and then it's like it turns into Jeff's most hated word. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So to me, the biggest wild card is Holcomb. If he could come back and contribute, that's huge. But I'm also not banking on it, and I still think the Steelers would be all right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So, and
Would
I'm
be
pretty
all-
sure he wore the dot before he got hurt because John Walton
Yes.
was asking about that. I'm fairly certain that he did.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure it was Afton. It might have been Kathy, but I think it was Afton was saying Queen would be better without the dot. Yeah. I mean, perhaps, but that would be the potential there. So to me, I think that one's one that I'm going to call for now. I'm going to call steady.
Yes.
I'm not ready to say that it's going to go one way or the other, but it could go one way or the other a lot.
I think
For
about
right now because I don't know which way.
Well,
to go.
see, you say a lot. See, I look at it as that room was improved last year from
Yeah.
the year prior. So finally started to move that needle up on that room.
Yeah.
That room is steady right now. Could go up, could drop down, depending on what's going on. I'm with you though. I think it has more. There's more room for it to move up. If the drop is down, I don't think it's that much.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I'm happy with that room.
Yeah. I want to say this because Big Pun says this. Holcomb, Wilson, and Queen are pursuit linebackers. They need paired with a thumper. Well, I think Harrison could be more that, but I'll be honest with you. I think the thumper linebacker is being diminished more and more in the NFL because if you're just a thumper, it's the Mark Robinson theory.
Yes,
As soon as
exactly.
Mark Robinson comes out on the field, you know what the team's going to do? Go throw the ball.
Yep. That's what's held Mark Robinson back.
Yeah, and I think the only way to be able to get by without a thumper linebacker is the guys that are right in front of him, which we'll get to in just a minute. Because next we'll hit outside linebacker. To me, I mean, do you get any more hold true than the Steelers at outside linebacker?
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah,
No.
I know you wouldn't read my article anyway, but my mock draft Monday, I did one this week because it wasn't someone that I expected to ever see again. I'm like, oh, it gives me a chance to do something else. It was an outside linebacker in the first round out of Georgia, Walker, that said, oh, if he falls, man, the Steelers would be foolish not to take it. I'm like, and there was someone that commented in the article and said, wow, just imagine him along with Herbig to be able to spell Highsmith and Watt. I'm like, you want to take a first round pick and make them a rotational sub?
Yeah.
No.
That's a waste of a pick.
That's a waste of a first round pick. Okay. Jeremiah Moon is back. I mean, they've got pretty much everyone, and apparently Malik Harrison. I keep screwing up his name. Can also play edge if you need him to. So
Yes.
kind of interesting. Okay. So to me, I think they're good there. So then we'll get to the big one. This is the big one.
Yes.
The defensive line.
Yes.
Now, once again, let me talk about some recency bias. A lot of people were talking about, oh my goodness, the Steelers so bad. They got run on so bad by the Ravens at the end of the season. Their run defense is awful. They've really got to do something. Okay. You're not wrong that they got run all over by the Ravens. I hated their philosophy in the wild card. They changed the assignments. The assignment had typically been outside linebackers have, if you're running the option, the outside linebackers have quarterback, the inside guys have running back. And they changed it to playoffs, and they're like, oh, why is TJ Watt constantly going for Derrick Henry and then Lamar's keeping the ball? Because that was his assignment. Those things were assigned based on the defensive call.
Yep.
Whether who does the defensive end or outside linebacker or whatever it is, who do they have? Okay. A lot of times, like I in high school football, a lot of times your outside linebacker, your job is a lot of times because you're thinking of option where the quarterback can either keep it or pitch it running wide. Their guy is the pitch man because that's the guy who's more of the outside threat. When you're talking the option with running the dive up the middle with Henry, where he either hands it off or he keeps it, the outside option is the quarterback, and that's how I'd rather them do it. But to me, I thought that was a bad game plan for that game to do that, and it didn't work, as you can see. But,
yeah, I think that came back to bite the Steelers. That was the old, oh, we showed them this, so we're going to change it up and hopefully fool them, and it didn't work.
Yeah. And remember, that was the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. Who was the number 2 rushing offense in the NFL? The Philadelphia Eagles, 179 yards per game. Steelers held them to 131. That's actually kind of keeping them in check. No, they didn't win the game. Okay. The other 2 games to finish the regular season, the Steelers gave up less than 70 yards rushing in each game. They still lost them both, so it's kind of you can't chalk that up as a victory, just because you held them under 70 yards rushing. So the problem was specifically with how things were going with the Ravens, and I think some of that was scheme more than anything. But when it comes to defensive line, I don't think they have to overreact and say you've got to keep your nose tackle on the field all the time, and you've got to get the right guy in the first round to go do that, and blah 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 blah. That would be an overreaction that's reactionary to just one team in your division. But I still think they need another big guy up front, and I'm telling you right now, Rich, if you asked me to place a large wager on the position that the Steelers are taking in the first round, what are they taking in the first round?
Oh, they're taking defensive line.
It's defense. This is setting up to be defensive line pick for the Steelers. It really is. So to me, this one for me is an incomplete. They lost Larry Ogunjobi. All they've added is just some depth pieces, the guys that might not even make the roster. But to me, this is an incomplete because with the Steelers not having a second round pick right now, if it's not a first round defensive line, then your defensive line is taking a really big hit for next year.
Yes.
Because you need someone that you're going to want to get out there as soon as possible. And I think that's what they're going to do. And I think they have multiple options there. So much so some people say trade down, still get your guy and pick up another pick. They might be able to do that.
And they might be able to do that. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But to me, they haven't picked a defender in the first round since Devin Bush. Since 2019. That's why their defense is so expensive. Because you haven't your draft picks of defense haven't worked out, everything else. The sad part is some
of those offensive draft picks are no longer on the team. That's the tough part.
Yeah. That's the thing. They haven't worked out well. Here, and David Poe's right. He says Larry was going to be missing time and was overpaid. So things are looking up. They're not better. They're not better without, not that Larry O was great. They're not better without Larry O because they haven't upgraded that spot yet. But I think potentially they can. They just haven't. And I the name that some people are floating out there that people are like, oh man, you got to be crazy. If they're going to draft a guy high, having someone like a Calais Campbell come in isn't a bad idea either.
No.
I could see that happening.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Where are we going? What's next?
No, what else? I was going to let you talk about defensive line since I went so much.
All right. So, I'm kind of, I don't know that I want to go the total Dave route and give it an incomplete. I understand what you're saying by the incomplete.
Yeah.
Is of the entire defense, that's the one room that we know 100% is not set yet.
Absolutely.
All the other rooms on defense could basically be set right now.
Yeah.
Defensive line is not. We know it's not. what's going to be interesting to me is if the Steelers go that route in the draft, I kind of want to see what they do.
Yeah.
Are we, is the, I want to get a better grasp on the thought process. Is the thought process we're drafting defensive lineman. He's going to come in here now, going to work as a rookie, and basically is going to be, Cam Hayward in 2 years.
Yeah.
And we'll be then trying to fill another spot because Cam will be finished playing.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of the direction I'd like to see him go.
Yeah.
Go into this draft, get that big time defensive lineman in the first round, have them come in, be getting meaningful reps, but not having to 100% be the man, but with the idea that before long we want you to be the man.
Yeah.
Because that's what Cam Hayward got to do, basically.
Yeah.
He got to come in, and we all knew he was going to be the man. But he didn't have to, he did not have the weight of the team on his shoulders from the very beginning.
Yeah. And he was also joining a really good defense.
Correct.
So
that's what I'd like to see the Steelers potentially do here to get that upgrade in the room, to finish out that line for now. Say, hey, it's going to be an important piece this year, but even going to be a bigger, more important piece in the next couple years. So,
yeah. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So I'm good. So to me, overall, I feel like the Steelers are on track to be a better defense in 2025 because I think their secondary is going to be better. But you've still got a question mark at inside linebacker that could be great or could not work out, and you've got to see what they still have left to do at defensive line. So I like that they've upgraded the secondary. All right. It's time for our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. We got to get to it. Did you star one in there, Rich?
I did. I starred. It's the only one I saw, actually.
Okay, yeah, I saw one. So here we go. So we're going to look at this one. We're going to say John S. He says 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk, and all the Steelers may be getting Aaron Rodgers. What is your craziest coworker or classmate story? I didn't read this ahead of time, so I'm still thinking. Did you?
I read it. I have one that I will not talk about.
Uh-oh.
Ironically, I talked about it with a coworker earlier today, but I will not put it out just out of just because of
I didn't hit start.
Involved.
Okay.
No. So hold on, I've been thinking. I mean, I can tell some fun different coworker stories. I had a coworker years ago. He and I were co-chairs of a committee, and he took it upon himself to send an email out on our behalf as co-chairs to the entire department without letting me see it first.
Ooh.
That did not go well.
Ooh.
And this was someone who was a really good friend, okay? And did that and sent that out and basically it became very quickly it became known very quickly that I did not have a part of that email. I actually, in the end, helped that coworker out a lot by saying, you know what? Look, I get this. He was one of those people who's like, I get the point you're trying to get across. How you're saying it is not correct. He actually learned a lot because he learned that then he could come to me and say, what we're needing to say is this. How do we say this and not offend people? And so his job was we would discuss, he would kind of figure out say, hey, I'm thinking we need to get this kind of message out. I'd say, I agree. He'd say, okay, how do we say it so I don't get fired? And that was our relationship from then on. I did a good job because I could have ruined our relationship. That's how bad that one email he sent out was. He actually was good about it when I called him on it. He actually emailed the entire department and made sure everybody was clear that email actually came from him and I had no part of it.
Gotcha. See, when I think of coworkers and other things like that, I mean, well, first of all, you got to think I have one Brian Anthony Davis, who's a coworker. So I could, so
Mr.
you
2
want a crazy
a.m..
story, all I got to do is just all you have to do is go back and listen to the first 5 minutes of the Steelers preview this past week, and and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's and also, although you got to love Brian, I have never seen a guy that is just that goes through more computer cords than one Brian Anthony Davis. It seems like every week he has a problem with his cord and he's got to get a new cord for his mic, and then something happens and I'm like, do you chew on them as soon as we go off air? What's going on here? So that's kind of crazy. But I had a coworker when I was teaching, and it was really fun because I was the physics teacher. He was the chemistry teacher. He's still the chemistry teacher there, even though it's been a long time since I was there. And we were the two faculty members that when we had to sit and do ridiculous faculty meetings and in-services and stuff like that, we were like the students that you didn't want to have in your classroom. So I remember one time we had to go through this. I mean, we would just, if one of us wasn't there, it just wasn't the same. It's how we could get through these ridiculously boring things. But I remember one time we had a it was some kind of reading intervention training thing, and we sat there, and I had a bunch of cool gadgety things as a physics teacher, and one of the things that I had these. It was about the size of a wiffle ball, but they were suction cups. It was suction cup ball. You know, like if you've ever seen them, like if you ever had the scatch where it was tennis, or I had ones that were flat and had suction cups that would stick to it. And I just had a bunch of the ball. And he came into my room before we went up there. He grabbed one of them. He's like, I need something to play with. He'd sit there on the table and make tons of noise, got in trouble with it and everything. And I saw something in his face, just kind of just like a thought enter his mind. And he just held the ball and he just held it and sat there. And it was another 20 or 25 minutes of this meeting that we had during our planning period that I could just see that he was on the cusp of saying something the whole time. And what it was as soon as the meeting was over, he's like, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, and he said it to the presenter, who was he was follically impaired. I'll say that. So he was very well. He's like, I gotta know. If I threw this at your head, would it stick?
I was going to say that he just threw it to see if it would. That would have been even crazier.
No, that which would have been nice. But no, that's what he did. So he sat there for the longest time. That's the kind of stuff we did. That was my craziest coworker that I could think of.
This technically not a coworker, but I'll bring another one up real quick. This is going to be I'll keep it fast. This was someone who,
quick, we just did our 5.
Someone who worked in my field. We would do were involved in conferences, on planning committees and things together. All of a sudden, they disappeared on us, and nobody really had an idea what was going on. And then they showed up at our conference and had this wild backstory of stuff that was, I'm doing this and this, and these things that were going on. And then the next week, I see him on the news have been arrested for killing a homeless person.
Oh my!
And is now in prison.
My goodness! So you just had wow. Okay, that's a crazy coworker.
So that was a straight up just. A lot of us that were breathing a sigh of relief that we had just spent a day and a half with this person and we survived.
Wow. I hadn't heard that one from you before, so that's crazy. You win. You win that. Yeah. All right. Let's get to our big question. Back to the Steelers. Big question. Get ready in the live chat to answer this. Wait until I tell you to, so we can do there. It's funny. John S. Oh, wait. I missed it. John S. said, bad chewing on the wires doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it doesn't sound so bad. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
We haven't seen him on the news yet.
So. Yeah, haven't seen him on the news yet. I don't know.
Chewing on the wires better than using the wires to strangle somebody.
Yeah, okay, we can stop this now. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Here's the big question. All right, Rich, On defense, because this is what we were talking about tonight. The Steelers on defense. What, and this could be, you could go with what's already happened or anything that could happen. Well, just leave it out there as a possibility. What do you think will be those Steelers' most impactful, what's the word I'm looking for? Acquisition defensively for 2025. What's going to have the most, who's going to have the most impact on the Steelers in a good way?
Yep.
For the Steelers defense for 2025.
Okay, I'm taking the one to me that's the easiest. And that's going to be Darius Slay playing opposite of Joey Porter Jr.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah, and the reasons I'm saying that is just the knowledge and just the professionalism that he's going to be able to instill on Joey Porter Jr. Plus then being the fact that, in my opinion, he's an upgrade on the other side of that ball, which then is going to, in a lot of ways, allow, when you get into your slot person, it's going to, honestly, it's going to free up the safeties some more.
Yeah.
So the Steelers are going to have the potential to do a lot of different things defensively, potentially because of the Darius Slay signing. So I'm saying Slay.
That's a great answer. That allows me to go off script.
Okay.
I think that's a great answer, because I even think even just the mentorship of it and his play on the field, all that stuff is great. So I'm gonna go outside the box. I'm going to say the Steelers' first round defensive lineman draft choice.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. So I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. Wes was asking me a question. I think I missed part of it that I don't understand what it is. So
he says, Dave, someone they already gotten or predictively someone they might get. And
yes, that was to this. Yep.
It's either.
It can be either.
Either
Hopefully
way.
you know that now based on my answer. Okay.
Yes.
So here we go. That you're all free to answer. We'll get through these since we're running a little bit over. It's funny. So I was like, you stole both of mine. Yeah, that's because I almost went Thornhill, because I think that could be, and then Harrison's another
That one could be the
crazy.
Thornhill could be the answer at the end of the year.
Yeah, because
I don't know has the potential to have the biggest impact, but wasn't answering it on potential.
Yeah.
I was answering on what I saw.
Do you think how many people would have chosen as their first option Deshaun Elliott last year? He ended up being the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've got Afton forward. She's got the defensive lineman in the draft. So going with what mine was. Steel Dog 88 says Eccles. Okay. Mr. Woodside is worried about Slay's age. Remember, everyone was scared to death of Cam's age last year too. He had his best season.
Yeah.
Just remember, age is just a number, baby. Okay. So he's saying the first round draft pick on the defensive line. And Wes is saying that as well. He's like, whomever we draft on the DL, assuming it's the first round. If it's not a first round pick on the defensive line, I don't know that it's going to have the impact otherwise. Okay. John Walter says between the no, it's not just between the two. It could be any of them.
No, but he's the one that said that we'd taken both.
I'll take both of his answers. That's
so
right.
then he's going to go with Slay, which is
Okay.
funny because Dave, if I wouldn't have said Slay, my answer would have been your answer. So those two to me were the top two. Yeah. I chose to go with Slay. Yeah. John's choosing to go with Slay.
Yep.
Not that the other one's a bad answer.
Justin Weimer's going with Slay. Kathy's going with defensive line. She had to throw in where she had to
throw it in. At first, I thought she was saying we were going with the Donkey Kong line.
Yeah. Yeah, Donkey Kong line. That's a good one. Yeah, but like I said, there could be one of these sneaky things. Like, my goodness, what if it's Harrison at inside linebacker? What if all of a sudden, boom, that's your answer? I'm not predicting it, but I'm not saying that it couldn't be.
Can I ask a question? Technically, here, could we have actually said Cole Holcomb because he did not play a snap last year?
I would not. I would, if someone said that, I would not.
There you go.
I wouldn't get it wrong.
John came back again. He's just answering 8 times tonight. Dark Horse Holcomb. Yes, Dark Horse is Holcomb.
Yep.
And I would say he's not a new acquisition, but the fact he didn't play a snap at all last year I'd say you'd have to consider.
You have to,
because
yeah.
it's a,
I'm
because
I'm
it's a
not
big change.
disqualifying that one. See, Gavin Anthony, he says Slay, but as you said, John Walter said the dark horse would be Holcomb. Ryan Harrington says this is one that I'm not allowing. He says Minka. Minka's not an acquisition. Okay, but I think if he changes, I get what you're saying. He could be the answer if you drop the word acquisition. Yeah. So, I mean, some people were I think there's a lot of truth right here. Steel Dog 88 says Slay equals Patrick Peterson ? That's why Steelers fans aren't excited about this pickup. Because they believe that because it's too fresh in their minds with Patrick Peterson not working out. I'll be honest with you. We saw Patrick Peterson falling off some before he came to the Steelers.
Yes.
We have not seen that from Darius Slay in the NFL.
Darius Slay equal Joe Hayden ?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Hayden was younger, but yeah, I'd see that. John Walter said, yeah, Peterson was already declining. We haven't seen that yet in Slay. So
Peterson was already declined. Now you say yes, Slay is older than Joe Hayden, but we brought Joe Hayden in to be CB1.
yeah,
Slay is coming in. Actually, he might in his mind think he's CB1, but he's CB2.
I would prefer him to be CB1B.
I know. So
That's I mean, because if he is, I mean that's really good for the Steelers.
yes.
Yeah. So,
but honestly, it should take some off of him because it's not going to be, hey, Darius Slay, we expect you to go out there and be the absolute best corner on our team every snap.
yeah. So,
No, you're going to, yeah.
oh, wait,
Yeah.
I was supposed to be Afton. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll get to yours, Wes. Afton says, I'd have said Holcomb just because everyone thought he'd be cut. Yeah. And then Wes says, I might be the minority, but I'm very excited about Slay. I mean, I think that's an excitement that Steelers fans might start to have more once they finally get the quarterback position. I mean, everything's hung up on quarterback. I know. Okay, and Justin Weimer said, Slay is Hayden, just watch. I hope so. So with that, I think it's time to wrap it up here, Rich. Unless someone drops in a new one here before we finish up. Make sure you're checking out all our shows. We're not, Rich, we are less than a month away from the draft.
I know. I was thinking about that earlier today.
What's it? It's the 25th. That's going to be what, the Friday of the draft? Maybe? Yeah.
Something
perhaps?
like that.
I don't know. Yeah. Something around that.
Woo! You know what?
Wait. I might have the days off in my head. What? I've got to look at the calendar. I'm going to get confused. 25th would be the Friday night of the draft.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that'll be, that'll help answer some things too. I think the Steelers have so many good options at defensive line. I think you're going to see something special go there. So, and like Afton says, I can't wait for y'all's draft coverage. If things go the way I want them to, I want to be on here live the whole time like we did last year. That was a blast.
That was
hopefully we haven't talked about it yet because we're still, oh my goodness, the Steelers are still bogged down in free agency because they don't have a freaking quarterback. So it's just how it goes. So make sure you're checking out SteelCareerNetwork.com.
Steel Dog, stop reminding me
that he's like the mock draft is coming soon. Yeah, before you know it, Rich, our mock draft, I'll tell you right now, our mock draft should actually be on April 15th. So we're talking 3 shows from now.
3 shows from now, we're doing a mock draft.
Because we'll do the mock draft the week before, and then we'll do a sum up show. The final week is the way we
know what? Then maybe it's good that I've been extra super busy with work and other stuff that's going on. I haven't even been seeing much for mock drafts. I know they've been going on, but it's like I've been totally able to totally ignore them and shut them out. So I'm not, fully over them yet, but I'm sure it will take me about, 3 days from now. I'll be done.
Well, and here's what's crazy. It's so knee jerk with the national media. Oh, the Steelers, they before the DK Metcalf trade, everyone it was a wide receiver. Just different wide receiver for the Steelers. That's what they were definitely going to go. They trade for DK Metcalf. Haven't seen a wide receiver since. It just goes to show how much it changes. So it's just the way it goes. All right, Rich, what do you want to say here to close us out tonight?
I was actually going to open with, hey, a month from now, I don't have to worry about mock drafts anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, It's like, again, I'll just say it seems like so long, but yet in some ways it goes so quickly. Cannot believe we are within a month of the draft. It's great, but at the same time, you can say, I can't believe the Steelers don't have their quarterback room set. Again, not panicking over that yet. That honestly, in some ways, maybe it's what's helping me move this offseason along so quickly. The fact that it's just not everything done, sit around and wait for the next thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that might be why I'm just feeling a little different this offseason. Hey, but the offseason is great. Things are going to continue to happen. Steel Curtain Network, we're going to continue to cover things as they go on. And be ramping up for the draft. I know Jeremy Betts and Andrew Wilbar are, just chomping at the bit to get into all their fun draft stuff because it's the part.
Oh, they've been into it.
I know.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know. I see stuff. Just can't wait then for the draft and see if we get another temper tantrum over anything this year, because that will be my thing to watch for every year is how Andrew reacts to the Steelers' first round pick. But that's the kind of stuff that keeps it fun. It really is. Oh, wait, man, I should have had it up to play. We should have had the Jeff and the no, not Kenny Pickett. Don't take,
Oh my gosh, don't take
there you
Kenny
go. Thank you.
Pickett.
Is that what we're
Don't
seeing?
take Kenny Pickett. You shut the front door. Gosh.
Draft night is coming, and again, and I've said this in a couple of the weeks past. I'm going to say again. Look, everybody has the guys that they like and the things they want to see the Steelers do. Some people are going to, it's been this way in free agency. We've seen some things from the Steelers we like. We've lost out on guys people really wanted. People are happy. People are sad. People are mad. This, that, and everything else. And it's going to continue to be that way for some fans, because everybody has their own opinion on what the Steelers should be doing with their team. And I'm not saying people can't have their opinion on what should be going on with the team. You just have to understand that everything that the Steelers do working out exactly the way you see it is almost impossible. The numbers just don't play out that way. But whatever the way they play out, I hope everybody remembers, put your Steeler gear back on, get your terrible towel out, and let's be ready to cheer on that black and gold. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.